Who really broke the boy band mold? Louis Tomlinson or Jungkook? When one voice spoke, fans turned it into a war. Who actually destroyed the old boy band formula? Was it One Direction, as Louis Tomlinson boldly claimed, or was it Jungkook, the man fans now call a boy band in one body? When Louis spoke calmly about legacy, why did millions suddenly turn the spotlight to Jungkook? And how did one interview ignite one of the most emotional debates in pop culture today? This story doesn't begin with shouting. It begins with a sentence. Louis Tomlinson sat in front of Billboard, reflecting on history, not with anger, not with jealousy, but with honesty. He talked about how One Direction broke the traditional boy band mold, how they were not robotic, not uniform, not trapped in stiff choreography, how they showed real personalities, how no group had truly looked like them since. He said they freed themselves from the pattern. It sounded peaceful, but the internet does not listen quietly, because the moment Louis said we broke the mold, fans heard something else. If One Direction broke it, then what did Jungkook do? Shatter it? Burn it? Rewrite it entirely? On X, comments exploded. Not with hate toward Louis, but with a question that refused to die. If One Direction broke the mold, then Jungkook destroyed the mold itself. And suddenly, a new narrative was born. Louis Tomlinson never attacked BTS. In fact, he praised them. He admitted it hurt to see BTS break One Direction's records, but he said he was not jealous. He respected the industry's movement forward. He understood evolution. He called it natural. In the Billboard interview released January 2026, he remembered scrolling through Twitter years ago and seeing BTS take record after record that once belonged to his group. He said it made him sad, but not bitter. That honesty earned him respect. But fandom doesn't stop at respect. It builds mythology. When Louis said One Direction broke the boy band mold by being real, fans immediately asked, what is Jungkook then? Because Jungkook is not just part of a boy band. He is an idol, a soloist, a global pop star, a fashion icon, a viral machine, a live performance monster, a TikTok phenomenon, a luxury brand magnet, a chart destroyer, a face that sells anything, and a voice that bends genres. Fans began repeating one phrase like a prophecy. Jungkook is a boy band in one person. And that phrase refused to to understand why this hurts some people and electrifies others. You must understand what a boy band mold really means. Traditionally, boy bands were factories of roles. One was the bad boy. One was the shy one. One was the leader. One was the funny one. One was the heartthrob. They sang together, danced together, dressed alike, moved alike. The group mattered more than the individual point. One Direction changed part of that. They stood casually. They joked openly. They looked messy sometimes. They showed flaws. They felt like friends rather than a product. Louis is right about that. One Direction cracked the glass of perfection, but Jungkook didn't just crack glass, he walked through the wall. Jungkook debuted in BTS as the youngest member, once called the Golden Magne because he could do everything: sing, dance, rap, produce, draw, film, edit, perform. But that nickname was never supposed to become global identity. It just did. Over time, Jungkook became more than a member. He became a center of gravity. When he released solo music, it didn't feel like a boy band member trying solo. It felt like a main pop star arriving late to a party he already owned. Songs like Seven, Standing Next to You, and others didn't depend on BTS branding to succeed. They stood alone. They dominated charts that many solo artists never touch, and fans asked, if a boy band is supposed to share spotlight, then what happens when one member can carry stadiums alone? That is where the mold truly breaks. Louis spoke about One Direction showing real personalities instead of stiff choreography. But Jungkook did something even stranger. He became every role at once. He could be cute, dangerous, soft, dominant, shy, loud, emotional, athletic, stylish, messy, artistic, disciplined, all in one body. Fans didn't need 5 members to see 5 archetypes. They saw them all in him. That's why the phrase boy band in one person feels terrifying to some and thrilling to others. Louis also talked about loyalty of fans, about Directioners who grew with them, about shared formative years. BTS fans, ARMY feel the same. But Jungkook fans inside ARMY feel something more intense. They don't just follow a group. They follow a phenomenon who feels like a once-in-a-generation mutation of pop culture. When Lewis said, "No one is like One Direction," fans answered, "No one is like Jungkook either." And that's exactly the problem for the old system. Because the old system was built for groups, for teams, for shared brands. Jungkook functions like a brand, a group, and a movement by himself. That scares tradition. This is why Lewis's gentle statement turned into a battlefield. Not because he attacked anyone, but because he reminded people of legacy. And whenever legacy is mentioned, people start counting who changed more, who broke more rules, who rewrote more maps. Lewis broke the idea that boy bands must be robotic. Jungkook broke the idea that boy bands even need to exist in their old form. Look at fashion. Jungkook doesn't just wear clothes. He moves markets. One airport photo can make items sell out worldwide. He blends luxury with street, softness with danger, youth with authority. Brands don't use him as a BTS member. They use him as Jungkook. That is not boy band logic. That is solo star logic. Look at virality. Jungkook doesn't need promotion. A live stream, a rehearsal clip, a gym photo, a casual singing moment can dominate global timelines. He doesn't need a group stage to trend. He becomes news by existing. Boy bands were designed to need each other. Jungkook proves one member can feel like five. And that's why fans say, he didn't just break the mold, he made it irrelevant. But here is where it becomes emotional, not technical. Louis Tomlinson is not wrong. He earned his place in history. One Direction changed the early 2010s. They created a new kind of boy band freedom. They made millions grow up with them. Their music, tours, interviews, jokes, mistakes, all became memories. Jungkook is not here to erase that, but fandom doesn't want balance. It wants winners. When Lewis said, "We broke the mold," fans replied, "But Jungkook burned the mold and built a new world." Is that fair? Maybe not. But is it powerful? Absolutely. The debate is not really about Lewis versus Jungkook. It is about generations, about systems, about whether pop music still needs groups to create legends, or whether one human can now carry the weight of an entire era. Lewis comes from a time where groups were safety. Jungkook lives in a time where individuality is currency. Lewis talked about TikTok making him feel old. Jungkook rules TikTok without trying. Lewis talked about AI needing human touch. Jungkook's voice is so human it becomes emotional weaponry. Fans don't just listen to Jungkook. They feel protected by him, motivated by him, seen by him. That is not boy band psychology. That is cult of personality psychology. And that is what truly terrifies the old mold. Because when one person becomes the center of emotion, commerce, fashion, music, and narrative, the system must change around him. Lewis respects BTS. He said so. He respects their achievements. He respects evolution. But he also defends his past. He has the right to. Fans, however, are not historians. They are believers, and believers don't compare facts. They compare feelings, and the feeling many fans have is simple. One Direction changed how boy bands looked. Jungkook changed what a boy band even means. That is why the phrase boy band in one person spreads like fire, because it sounds impossible. And Jungkook keeps proving impossible is just a suggestion. Who really broke the mold? Lewis cracked it. Jungkook stepped beyond it. And maybe the real answer is this. The mold doesn't exist anymore, not because one man destroyed it, but because the world no longer needs it. But fans will never stop asking, who did it first? Who did it harder? Who changed more lives? And the most dangerous question of all, if Jungkook is already a boy band by himself, what happens to boy bands next? This is not the end of the debate. This is the beginning of a new era where one voice can sound like many, where one face can carry generations, and where the old rules are not broken quietly, but rewritten in front of the world. And the world is watching closely, because what is happening now is not just about music. It is about power, identity, and the future of stardom. When Louis Tomlinson spoke about legacy, he spoke as someone who had already lived his era. One Direction is history, but it is a living history. Their songs still play. Their fans still remember. Their absence still hurts. Louis carries that weight calmly. He He doesn't fight for dominance. He protects memory. Jungkook, on the other hand, is not protecting memory. He is creating pressure. Every move he makes feels like a test for the industry. Can charts still contain him? Can awards still measure him? Can categories still describe him? Is he K-pop? Is he pop? Is he idol? Is he soloist? Is he boyband member? Or is he simply Jungkook? This is why fans say he destroyed the mold. Because molds require categories and Jungkook keeps escaping them. When he sings, he is not performing like a main vocalist of a group. He sings like a global pop frontman. When he dances, he doesn't move like someone sharing space, he commands it. When he appears on stage, eyes don't divide, they collapse toward him. That is not group gravity. That is singular gravity that the boyband era Lewis comes from. Gravity was shared. Each member pulled a little. Together, they made a star system. Jungkook is a sun, and suns don't share orbit. This is why some fans feel uncomfortable admitting his power. Because if one person can replace what once required 5, what does that say about the structure of pop itself? This is not an insult to BTS. BTS remains one of the most powerful groups in history. But Jungkook inside BTS is like a force that could exist even without the universe that created him. That is rare. Painfully rare. When Lewis talked about showing real personality instead of stiff choreography, he described rebellion inside a system. Jungkook is rebellion against the system itself. Look at his global impact. His solo releases did not depend on K-pop fans only. They entered mainstream radio, global playlists, Western charts, clubs, social media trends. He did not need explanation. He did not need translation. His sound traveled faster than his biography. Boy bands used to need storytelling. Here's who they are.
Here's their concept.
Here's their image. Jungkook needs none of that. He walks in and people decide what he is by feeling. That is dangerous power. That is why fans don't speak about him like an artist. They speak about him like an event. They say, when Jungkook appears, something changes. They don't even need to explain what. They just know. Lewis also talked about pride in his bandmates. Harry winning Grammys, Neil becoming a TV judge. He sounded proud. He sounded peaceful. He sounded like a man who knows his chapter matters. But Jungkook is not in a peaceful chapter. He is in a storm chapter. Every release becomes a global test. Every look becomes a fashion signal. Every silence becomes a rumored. He cannot move without shifting something. That is why fans connect his rise with fear inside old structures. Not because people hate him, but because people don't know where to place him, and what cannot be placed becomes a threat to order. Fans defending Jungkook are not just defending an idol. They are defending a future where one human is allowed to be many things at once: singer, dancer, performer, icon, viral force, brand, emotion, memory. They say boy bands were built from pieces. Jungkook is built like a whole. And when Lewis said, "We freed ourselves from the pattern," fans answered, Jungkook freed himself from needing a pattern. That is the real tension. Not between Lewis and Jungkook, but between systems and singularity. The industry was built to manage groups. Contracts, roles, marketing, fandoms, tours, all designed for collectives. Jungkook moves like an individual with the force of a collective. That breaks planning, that breaks prediction, that breaks comfort, which is why he feels like danger to tradition and salvation to fans. Some fans say, if Jungkook debuted alone, he would still become global. That sentence is more powerful than any statistic because it suggests that the boy band was not his engine, it was his launchpad. And that idea scares anyone who believes systems create stars. Jungkook makes people believe stars sometimes create systems. Lewis respects evolution. He said music moves forward. He accepted BTS breaking One Direction's records as natural. That humility is rare. But fans are not humble. They are hungry. They want proof. They want rankings. They want crowns. And Jungkook keeps giving them reasons to believe he deserves one. Every sentence about breaking molds becomes fuel. Every word about legacy becomes competition. Every interview becomes battlefield. But what if the truth is quieter? What if Lewis broke the mold of boy bands looking perfect, and Jungkook broke the idea that a mold even matters? What if both are true? But fans don't want both. They want the one. And right now, the one they see is Jungkook, because he feels like the future walking inside the present, because he looks like a group, sounds like a soloist, moves like a star, and lives like a symbol, because when he breathes, the internet listens. And that is not boyband energy. That is era energy. So when people ask, who really broke the boyband mold? The answer is no longer just a name. It is a warning. The mold is gone, and what comes next may not look like 5 boys on a stage. It may look like one boy carrying 5 worlds inside him, and the world is not ready to admit that yet.